Hello, I am going to make a YouTube video about how to build a raised bed because I built a raised bed and people have asked. I want to give credit to the person who taught me to make a raised bed on YouTube, which is Goshen Farm and Gardens. My design is somewhat modified from his, so I just wanted to give him credit though. So if you search for how to build a raised bed in 1 hour for under $100, the 1 hour part's a little debatable, you will find the video that I modified this design from. So there is the first raised bed. I made one, and now I'm going to make two more, and so I'm going to do a video sort of to go with the instruction sheet I put together for friends of mine, and we'll go from there. So first, I will go through the stuff you need. This, by the way, is beautiful Cathy's Valley, California, which has something to do with why we are putting hardware cloth on the bottom of ours. There are some elements of this that you might not need if you're not in a place full of ground squirrels and gophers. But we are. I'm building two more beds. And so I have the lumber I need here. I'm building with pressure treated lumber. The tools you'll need are pretty simple. A circular saw, a screw gun or impact driver, sharp point roofing screws and 3-inch deck screws, a square, a good marking tool. I'm using a white grease pencil because this pressure treated is dark and it's hard to see a pencil on it. A hammer comes in handy later, tin snips. You don't really need pliers, but these are full of staples, so I've been using them. And a tape measure. That's pretty much all you need. And the first thing to do before you get your lumber is to figure out how much you need. I made this on a site called opticutter.com. There are a lot of cut length calculators out there, but I would recommend you use one so you're not wasting a whole lot of lumber, because it is fairly expensive. You know, you can get away with cheaper if you go without pressure treated, but they won't last as long. I'm not afraid of pressure treated, although I will wear gloves when I'm touching it a lot. So step one, cut your lumber. This OptiCutter thing puts out a nice table that shows you how many pieces of each length you need. And then it's just a matter of marking and cutting this pile of 2x4s into all the pieces that you need. I'm going to start doing that. So there's another tool that I think I forgot to mention, which is a square. Helps you mark things. So I would strongly recommend being very methodical about this. I'm going to mark all my lumber before cutting it, and then cut it. I'm just marking my lines and putting an X on the scrap. And as I go through the list, I am going to mark off every time I've finished marking. Like here, I've got the 12-footer is done, 6 10-footers, right? Just cross them off as you finish, because they're going to be different cuts for the different 2x4s that you have. And I say be methodical because there's nothing worse than using a lumber calculator to minimize waste and then screwing something up and not having enough scrap to make up for your mistake, right? Okay, I'm almost halfway there. These are the cut pieces over there, and here's some more getting ready to cut. This reminded me to mention something. The 55-inch pieces in the plans, I'm cutting 54-inch pieces, but that's only because we are we are putting hardware cloth across the bottom, and hardware, you can get it in 48-inch lengths, and by cutting 54 for the short sides, that gives me a ½ inch on either side to staple my hardware cloth. So if you are not in an area where you have to worry about things stealing your carrots from underground, in other words, burrowing up into the bottom of your raised beds, you don't have to do that, and you can save yourself the effort of cutting, the 8-foot steel sides. If you cut 55 inches, you only have to make one cut up the middle. I have about an inch strip that'll be left over. So I just wanted to mention that. Look, the cows are here. I just wanted to mention, do keep an eye out for, if this will focus, staples. They're annoying, and they will ruin your saw blade, so if you pull them out, it's better. Just so I don't get picked on in the comments, yes, I know a circular saw will eat staples for lunch, but they will cut you up, so it's still good to remove them. Alright, so I've got my pieces all cut. There are 20 20-inch pieces, 20 27-inch pieces. This is for 2 raised beds. Those are the vertical support things. And then I've got 8 for the short sides at 54 inches and 8 for the long sides at 8 feet, 96 inches. This is my scrap. So as you can see, that's about 25 bucks worth of scrap. So you're gonna benefit from, and that's with minimizing it using a calculator. So, but scrap pressure treated is pretty useful, to be honest. Never burn it because it'll poison you. All right, so then we're gonna put these things together. Now that you have all of the parts, it gets easy because you're just going to assemble these things. This, I think, is step 3 in those written instructions. Here's another useful thing that the scrap is for, because you can use the scrap to just set these things. Couple inches down in the center. Gloves are a pain in the ass, but so is formaldehyde. And what you're building is those. They are a 2x4 wide at the ends and 27 inches tall. You're going to build 10 of them for each bed. Again, pretty simple. So step 1 was making all the cuts. Step 2 was building these things, this vertical supports. And now we're on step 3, which is to assemble the long sides. And that's pretty simple. You just want to take the vertical supports. I'm going to use 3 of them. 1 on each end, and 1 in the middle to connect these two 8-foot 2x. So you're probably going to notice that I can barely breathe, and that's true. I can barely breathe, so bear with me. But also rest assured that if I can build things, anyone can, because I have terrible lungs. So again, we're gonna use a single screw in the center of the 2x4. These 3-inch screws are nice because they won't go all the way through. Did measure to the center, centering this one on 48 inches. It's not necessary, but it'll look better. It's centered. Alright, and after that, you're going to flip this over. This, I guess, would be step 4. Because you want a flat side. You'll notice that all of the 2x4s are in the same plane on this side. And that's where you're going to attach your steel. So at this point you're going to switch over to your roofing screws. Mine are just 1/4-inch drive hex heads. You can take your steel. I don't know if I mentioned this, but you need this roofing steel. This is I got it at Lowe's. It's 32 gauge. They call them 2x8. But they're actually 26 inches by 8 feet corrugated steel sheets. And you're going to make sure that they don't extend beyond the end. And then just attach them to your 2x with 3 screws in each. Three screws at each end and 3 in the middle. Hit the screws in the valleys. Good morning. We have another day here. Alright, so now I've got a couple of long sides over here that are framed but don't have the metal added yet. I have the rest of my vertical supports, and I have my short side horizontal pieces. Okay, so now I've got the two completed long sides balanced on their edges. There's a 55-inch 2x4 across the top, but that's just resting there to keep them stable. And I'm going to take my other 55-inchers. Mine are 54, but I explained that if you want hardware cloth, 54 is better. So I'm just going to take these and tack them into the ends of the long edge. That was clever. I'd have started these screws beforehand. So anyway, the idea is to put these two on, and then in a minute we're going to add the vertical supports on the end. So do yourself a favor if you're doing this alone, and especially if you're making a video and people might watch you blundering around like an idiot later, and just set the crosspiece on top and start your screws. It makes it a lot easier. You know, just drive it in a little ways, and then when you go to put it on, it will look like you know what you're doing. Maybe not. So anyway, that helped. So now the last step, well, the second to last step, is to put in these last two vertical supports. And these you just want to line up with the edge there so that they create another flat surface to attach your last piece of metal to. Yeah, and starting the screws does help a lot. This is where you might need a hammer. These two went in pretty easily, but on the other one they were pretty tight and I had to nudge them, get them in and nudge them over. But there, as the short end is complete, with the exception of the metal. So now I'm going to do the same on this side. this one does require a little nudging with the hammer. Okay, the last step is to install the metal on the short ends. Each of these raised beds takes 3 sheets. You're going to use the 2 complete ones on the side. And in my case, I'm going to cut 46-inch pieces for the ends because I didn't use the full length because I want to install hardware cloth on the bottom. So mine's not quite 4 feet wide. But if you're not installing hardware cloth on the bottom, you can just cut the sheet in half and it'll fit. In my case, I'm going to have about a 1-inch strip that I cut off. When you're cutting this stuff, do yourself a huge favor and wear gloves, because it's not only really sharp, it's also treated with starfish venom or something that makes it really annoying and painful to get cut by. But it cuts pretty easy. This 32 gauge stuff. There's one end piece, which I'm going to install. In there, and I'll cut another one for the other side. And what you might ask are the optional parts. The optional parts are these corner braces. I had some leftover 3/4 inch plywood from shelves that I'm just going to tack down onto the corners. And the reason I'm doing that is because these are not being built where they're going to be used. They're actually going to be moved way over there. And so to increase their structural stability, I just put in these corner braces. You can use anything. I mean, you can see on this one I've just used pieces of 1 by 3. And the other optional part is hardware cloth. I don't know if you can see, but on this one the bottom is covered, and I'm going to cover this one as well. We're going to cover all of ours because we have lots of rodents living in the ground here in California. And if you don't exclude them from the bottom of your beds, they'll just burrow in and eat everything you plant. So there. Other than that, it's done. I'm going to tack those down on the top. And that's a raised bed, almost ready to go. So here is one that's completely finished. It's stabilized at the corners. It's basically standing here, ready to get moved over to our flat sunny spot way over there. And it is gopher proof. So that's the deal. And then we're gonna, I don't know, I'm lazy about processing, so before I get this done and post it, I'll probably have the Hugelkultur stuff going as well. So, alright, so you can see that we've moved the raised beds over to their new home. A friend of ours is helping cut up some wood for the Hugelkultur. And Betsy is beginning to fill them with soil. Moving them wasn't too bad. Oh, I'm talking to YouTube. To YouTube. I'm making my YouTube video. So they're in place. And Betsy is filling them, the base, with soil, which seems to be going okay. Cool. And we are cutting up our lumber to go in the bottom. That pile right there is going to end up in here. So the next thing you need is some dirt. Excuse me, soil. And this is a pile that we're having. This is 10 yards, and there's 8 more coming up the hill in a minute here. I think that'll be more than, well, I know that'll be more than enough to fill those, but you can never have too much soil, right? Pretty close. I think that'd be good. More dirt. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. I think you'll have better luck there than over here. That miner. So this is the first layer of the Hugelkultur bed. Betsy has put 3 or 4 inches of soil in the bottom, and then layer of greenery, basically just anything that you've weed whacked, trimmed from your garden, and then lined the bottom with large logs. So that's layer one of this layer cake. Starting on the second bed here. The next step is to put 3 or 4 inches of soil in the bottom. About 3 of these gorilla cones. And just spread it out evenly, like that. Now you can see I've harvested the tall grass and miner's lettuce that was back there and jammed it all into the spaces in our log. The next stage, which will be cover this layer with soil, water it in pretty good, let it settle in. Big layer cake, a Hugelkultur layer cake. Alright, apologies if the audio is terrible. We are facing another serious windstorm today. It's supposed to be coming in tonight, mono winds. To heavy enough that they won't blow away. So now I'm at the point where we've got the bottom layer of logs packed with greens. I just covered them with a layer of soil. Right now we water it in, and that's the Alright, so we got our day's work done here. You know, a leisurely day's work. This one is, the bottom is filled with soil, ready for its logs to be added tomorrow. We got this one with its logs, and it's ready to get its greenery and such tomorrow. And this one has been logs laid in, and the top layer of soil. So that's the progress. This is going to be quite doable before the planting season. We are in late February right now. California has something to be said for it. This is Massachusetts. And it's freezing cold and covered with snow there. So yeah, California. This is the first one with its bottom layer complete. And the second layer started. This is the one with the bottom layer ready for dirt on top, soil, excuse me. And then here is the third one, getting its bottom layer installed. This is the hard part. So these things are done enough that I'm going to call them done, so that I can finish my video. A couple things to mention. Putting these trellises on this end and between two of them over there. You want to make sure that you place those trellises so that you can get at the beds to harvest stuff, and also that you don't want to block the shade. We've got the sun basically comes across here, and so this placement will cause the least shade. So as you can see, this bed is completely done and actually planted. My wife Betsy has planted some radishes, and I don't know if you can see it, but one of them, there's actually 3 of them that have broken the surface over here. So that's a completed Hugelkultur bed. This one is about very close to done. It just needs the soil layer on the top, and then this one needs another layer of sticks and greens before we can add the soil layer. But that's it. Now I can put this together and post it. Thank you for watching.